In this short 10-minute video, I want to share something with you. Something major has happened in Israel. Something that is going to help fulfill Bible prophecy. And I'm telling you, we may be at the very, very time of the end right now. I mean, getting there. We're approaching the time of the end like we never have before. And of course, people have been saying we're in the last days, but dear me, this has never happened before in nearly 2,000 years. I've been telling people about a coming jubilee, the 40th jubilee. You can't see it back here, but on the wall back here, I've got how the jubilees come from the time of Adam until the time of Abraham. You have approximately 2,000 years, and that would be 40 jubilees. And of course, they did have first fruits, and they had tithing, and so there's every indication that they would have had a jubilee. All right, then from the time of Abraham to the time of Christ was another 2,000 years. Again, another 40 jubilees. Now, 40 is significant because it represents, as theologians will tell you, the completion of trials and testing. And that being the case, if it's the completion of trials and testing, then 40 is something we need to look at when it comes to the Jubilee period, which is every 50 years. But there have been 40 such Jubilees between Adam and Abraham and the first coming of Christ. And how long has it been from the first coming of Christ until now? Well, Christ died in the year AD 31. This is the year 2021. So we are 1,990 years since the crucifixion. In 10 more years, we will have arrived at the 2,000th anniversary of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and the birthday of the Christian church in AD 31, not 33 as we all know now, and not 30 like many Protestants just rounded off to 30. We know for a fact from a correct understanding of the 70 weeks prophecy that Christ was baptized in 27 in the autumn of 27 or late summer. He had a 3.5-year ministry. And then, at the end of that 3.5-year ministry, he was crucified, resurrected from the dead, started the church 7 weeks later. And this coming Sunday, as I'm doing this 10-minute program here, this 10-minute little blurb, we're doing a little advertising. This coming Sunday is the day of Pentecost. Now, Pentecost and Jubilee are very much the same. I doubt you can see it. For Pentecost, you work 6 days and rest the 7th. You do it 7 times, that's 49 days. And the 50th day is Pentecost. Jubilee, you work 6 years, you rest the 7th. And on the, you do that 7 times. On the 49th, the 7th Sabbath, sabbatical year is 49 years, and then the next year is Jubilee. Now, I am going to, this coming Saturday, I'm going to be giving some news about what has just happened. It just happened in Israel, a week or 2 weeks ago, just within days actually. A new prime minister has come to Israel. This new prime minister is not like Benjamin Netanyahu. All the prime ministers they've had from what has it been, Ben-Gurion all the way up, they've been basically secular. Israel is basically a secular nation, but the new prime minister wears the kippah, the little hat on his head, and they say he's very religious. So this new guy may be the one who will allow the Jews to finally rebuild the temple. Now, something you got to understand. I know there are prophecy teachers who say, oh, there'll never be another temple rebuilt. I've had more than one person to say that. Oh, they'll never rebuild the temple. 2 Thessalonians 2 says there will be a temple in the last days. And the son of perdition, the Antichrist, will walk right into that temple, blaspheming God, claiming that he is God. That requires the temple to be rebuilt. Now, they've been working on that since the 6-day war. They got the old city, the city of David. They got the temple, what's called the Temple Mount. And then they had to train the priesthood, and that's been done. And then they had to do a whole lot of things, get the temple furniture ready, the menorah and the showbread table and all that. So now they've got that all ready. They're ready to go now. And in fact, I have been telling our students for years that they are preparing to build the temple. But last year, either 2019 or 2020, I don't know which, I forget which year it was, but they made the announcement, we're not preparing anymore. We're done. We're prepared. We're ready to go. And they said the only thing standing in their way is the Israeli government. Because when the Israeli government says go for it, they're going to build it. Now the reason they haven't built it yet is because on the Temple Mount sits the Dome of the Rock, which is one of the, I think it's the third so-called holiest place for the Islam religion. And so Gershom Solomon, who is the head of the Temple Mount faithful in Israel, he wrote them a letter. He said, let us take the thing down one brick at a time. We'll very respectfully take it down, put it on a truck, send it to Mecca where it belongs. They won't let him do that. Now here's something else that's interesting. I'm not an archaeologist, I'm not Indiana Jones, so I really don't know how accurate this is. But archaeologists have discovered several hundred feet from the Temple Mount in the old city, the city of David, what could be the remains of Solomon's temple. And not on the Temple Mount, but they found where there was a trough there where the blood could go through and where the sacrifices were being made. It was underground, but they went there, they excavated. So they know for a fact that there was a temple there in the city of David. They can't say for sure if it was Solomon's temple, but they know for a fact there was a temple there. And several hundred feet from the Temple Mount. Now, why do I bring that up? Because if that is the true location for Solomon's temple, that means they could start building the house of God right now. Now, the Bible says you have the 70 weeks of Daniel, the 69 weeks lead you to the crucifixion of Christ. The 70th week, 7 years, will start with the first daily sacrifice. And I'm here to tell you that they don't even have to finish the temple, which, by the way, they can build in 6 months, so they tell us. But all they've got to do is consecrate the area where they want to build the temple, put an altar there, and this week they could be offering up sacrifices. Now, when that starts, you've got 7 years. That's the 70th week of Daniel. Do we have a question?
We've got a comment.
A comment? I'll take a comment.
Willow and Al that watch every week, it says, there's now a liberal leader running Israel with an agreement with 8 different parties.
Well, the guy who's now the prime minister is very religious, and so he wants the temple built. That's what is interesting.
But most Jews are pretty liberal.
This fellow, though, is very conservative. In fact, he's considered, I think, an ultra-conservative. His name is Naftali Bennett. He's the new prime minister. So if he's religious, then all he's got to do is designate a place for the temple, whether it be the Temple Mount or whether it be this other place several hundred feet away. And once they build the temple, or even designate it, and start offering up sacrifices, 3.5 years there will be sacrifices in Jerusalem. And then Jesus said, when you see the abomination of desolation in the holy place, that's the temple, then shall be great tribulation, such as was not from the beginning of the world this time, no, nor ever shall be. And Daniel 9 says that happens in the midst of that week, that 7-year period. So you have a 3.5 year period where they offer up animal sacrifices. Some people think that's talking about Christ. Christ did not stop the animal offerings. He died in 31 AD. The animal sacrifices continued until AD 40, another 39 years. He didn't put a stop to sacrifices. But this rascal will. He's called the Prince that shall come. He'll put an end to the sacrifices because he walks into the temple and desecrates the temple. And from that point forward, the next 3.5 years is the world's greatest tribulation. It's not the time of God's wrath. Revelation 12:12 calls it the time of Satan's wrath. And Satan's primarily after 2 entities. Read it in chapter 12, verse 17. He's after the woman who brought forth the man-child to rule all nations. That's Israel. He's going to try to destroy Israel. And then it says, and also, here's the second entity that the devil is after. Those who have the testimony of Jesus Christ and keep the commandments of God. That's us, if we're keeping his commandments. So the devil's wrath will be against Israel and the true church of God. That's who Satan's after. The Great Tribulation is not God's judging the world like a lot of Pentecostals say. The tribulation is because the devil has no business judging us. In fact, Colossians 2:16 said, don't even let men judge you. It's none of their business. Because the body belongs to Christ. It doesn't belong to men. And the devil is not judging us. The devil's trying to destroy us. During that 3.5 years, he's going to try to destroy all of Israel, and he's going to try to destroy the church. After that 3.5 year period is over, then you have the heavenly signs, and then you have the great and terrible day of the Lord, and that's not for us. We're going to be protected during that time. The whole church will at that time. So here's what I'm saying. If this new prime minister decides to rebuild the temple, they could start this year. Now, if it's on the Temple Mount, they got a problem. I don't know how they'll solve that. But if they go to this place several hundred feet away, they could start building literally this summer. And we're looking at Jesus Christ standing on this earth within 10 years. So, anyway, this coming Saturday, what's today? Today's the 16th?
Today's the 16th.
Today's June 16th. So this coming Saturday, June the 19th, I will be explaining this in detail, and I'll be explaining what the Jubilee period is. And the Jews have a legend that the Messiah will come at a Jubilee. We have had 39 Jubilees. There's one coming up, and that will be the 40th Jubilee, and I'll talk more about that this Saturday. So be sure to tune in. Tell your friends where to watch this. You might even want to get a few preachers on the telephone and ask them to watch it too.
And if you live locally, come on and join us in person.
Yeah, if you live locally, please come and join us. We're at 1501 South Main Street, Kannapolis. If you're anywhere within a 50-mile radius, come here and be with us. Then the following day, June 20th, will be Pentecost, and we're going to have a feast that day, go out and eat, and come back and do some singing. So please be with us this weekend. Be blessed.